my closest friends, Akeem Moore. He was murdered in like literally weeks before my transformation.
Hey, welcome again to the Value of Vulnerability podcast. Today is a great honor to have a good friend with me, Luke, aka Still Shady.
Yes.
Now, just let me get this MOBO Award winner,
Yeah.
Radio 1 Extra Award, probably some more, because you do amazing stuff.
Yeah.
But we're here today to hear a bit about your story.
Yes, sir.
So my first question to you is, if your life was a 5-minute reel on Facebook, can you tell us what would be in that reel?
Oh, like visuals wise,
You can do however you like.
a 5-minute reel of my life. Yeah, so my full name is actually Luke Oluwabukumi Peters. Oluwabukumi means God has blessed me in my parents' native language, Yoruba.
Okay.
And I think that would definitely be a headline in that 5-minute reel.
Yeah.
God has blessed me in ways that as a young child I didn't really understand. But even some of my challenges would be birthed from the gifts that God had given me.
Yeah.
Like this mouth of mine, you know,
Can get you into trouble as
would
well
get
as
me
good
into
things.
trouble.
Yeah.
But then it would actually,
Yeah.
be my instrument in my
Yeah.
career. So to summarize it, I think it's been a journey of pain, healing, and growth. So much has happened during that period.
So let's go right back to your birth.
Mm.
Obviously, you don't remember that, but
No.
where were you born? What was the circumstances there?
So I was born in King's College Hospital. So my first home was in Brixton. So I've been South London all my life, but I spent like 3 years in Brixton. Then we moved to Croydon after a little temporary move in Norbury area. But yeah, essentially my next home was in New Addington. Which is where I spent the next 15, 16 years of my life, where I became a teenager, where I became a young adult, where I made all of my mistakes. So yeah, you'll see that young person rushing to get the tram. I remember it was a new built infrastructure in New Addington, which I would later learn really gave a lot of boost to the economy of New Addington. So I was getting on that tram, heading towards East Croydon as a teenager, where I went to school in Purley.
Right.
So I went to a school called, first I went to a school called Edenham, but that didn't end well. I got kicked out of there. And then I ended up in a centre, and then Croydon of Excellence, I think it was called. Right. And then I ended up in Hayley Manor, which then turned to Harris Academy, Purley.
Yeah. Okay.
So I had a lot of blazers.
So you had some time in mainstream education, some time in what we call PRUs,
alternative provisions.
Alternative provision.
Yeah.
When you say you said we moved from, is that your mum, dad, brother?
My whole family.
What about brothers and sisters?
So I'm one out of 6 siblings, 2-parent household, Nigerian migrants. My mother and father came to this country in their early 20s, met each other, had 6 kids. I'm the middle child.
Right.
Literally, I was born on the 5th year. So 6 kids in the space of 10 years. And the whole family were together throughout my childhood. So we done the moving together.
Okay. And then, so you then, when you were growing up, was your mum and dad Christians? Did you have a Christian influence?
Absolutely, yeah. My dad's a pastor. So when I grew up, always knowing my dad was pastor in a very small Pentecostal church, which was mainly based in Streatham. So again, I would remember getting in the car every Sunday, journeying from New Addington on like a 50-minute drive to Streatham, which was so long. Fall asleep in the car, like it was just, even when I think about some of the subconscious dislike to church growing up probably was even just the car
travel.
journey.
The travel.
You're just sitting in a car. You don't have tech devices. You're all crunched up in a car. So
literally, Sam, the cameraman here, if he travels in my car more than 5 minutes, he feels sick. So.
Yeah.
So
I got the longest I can drive even right now is literally an hour and a half, man. Tell me to go Manchester, someone's got to drive. I can't do it. And which is just hilarious when I think about it.
Yeah, because you travel all over.
Because I travel everywhere
in the world, in fact. But you were talking about, and you remember running to the tram to get to Purley.
Yes, sir.
And you got in. I know from your story that you got into sort of start getting into a bit of the wrong crowd. So you were coming from a church family.
Absolutely.
You were then starting to go to school and secondary school.
Yeah.
And then was it a wrong crowd you got? How would you describe that?
It was a wrong culture. So even though I was going to church, as soon as I left those four walls, the culture that I saw in my periphery was just counter church culture. Even when I went home, I didn't see church at home. I saw a lot of anger and chaos, and that made me even think, oh, if we are Christians and this is the culture that I see, I don't really like Christianity.
Yeah.
So I grew up disliking Christianity, disliking church culture, having a profound understanding that God exists, but still not understanding what his people look like, which is the church, right? So, and then obviously my environment, the schools that I went to, my older brothers who were unfortunately involved in a lot of gang culture at the time, you closest to your siblings. So that's what you see. And that culture is way more potent than just the Sunday experience.
It's more exciting and it
was exciting. It was normal. It was definitely something I just generally saw. So, I mean, even though from year 6, I was almost, I never got excluded until I went year 7.
Right. Okay.
So year 6, I went to a school in New Adenton. There was a certain level of safeguarding where I didn't actually need to express. I still had anger issues from young. I was always an angry kid from obviously just growing up in a household where, my dad was an angry man. So that just was mirrored through my childhood. But that only really came out in year 7 when I started to go to a bigger school where there was a lot of different characters and your own personality is tested.
You're trying to find your personality.
Very trying to find yourself. I'm outnumbered. I've gone from being with classmates I've known for my whole life to then go in front of strangers and just remembering, what it feels like not to fit in. And straight away, all of these characteristics start to manifest. And for the lot of it, it was fighting, it was misbehaving in class, it was becoming distracted. And quickly I compromised quite naturally because the people I was drawn to were also the cohort of children that were doing the wrong thing as well. And
was there a particular gang you got involved with, or?
Yeah, there was a group that I rather wouldn't say, but they were a prolific group in South London, Croydon. This was a bit later, so my older brothers were a part of that group, and naturally, again, I need to emphasize, it was so organic. There's a culture today where young people are desperate to enter into the world of gangsterism and crime and what and it's so forced. It's so like there's no
one
genuine reason.
The next day you're this.
And then
whereas yours was just.
It was just so. It was the environment. So there wasn't this deep grooming where someone was pulling me. It was grooming, but it was so authentic to just the environment we were in. And sadly, that's how I just one day found myself in Croydon McDonald's on a Wednesday evening, and these older guys that we had already seen in our environment titled us as, you are now the youngest, like you lot are now what we would call the tinies of this group, where you would be known as that. So if anyone's got a problem with you guys, you know what it is, you know what you represent. And that language almost was like just recognizing something that was already happening to us. We were in the wrong place. But that was the validation that probably then took it to another level where we kind of said, okay, yeah, this is our territory, this is our mindset, this is our culture. Yeah.
And that sort of progressed because you then get involved with violence and then the drugs, the drug trade. But your journey with drugs is quite interesting because you were more on the, I say, the business side than
Absolutely.
necessarily getting to involve. I don't know how involved you got.
Yeah, so if we're talking about the 5 minute rule quickly, you would find yourself from 14 after getting kicked out already, coming out of a crew, and then finding myself in a school which was very close knitted to a prolific gang in the area. I all of a sudden started to adopt some of those cultural themes, which was drug trafficking, which was weapon carrying, which was burglaries, which was robberies. And again, I was just finding myself with these individuals that was performing those things, and I found myself doing it too. And sadly, or however you want to see it, I was a bright, clever, intuitive and individual. So when I went into that world, I was being very calculated, careful. I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want to go home and my parents find out. So I was very clinical in a way. I did certain things which I noticed was respected and admired by other people. Yes, I was a hothead, but I still had a bit of a leadership ability.
You had a sense of, actually, this is how we can get it to work.
You know, I was a hothead though. So I'm trying to, I want to be honest and say I wasn't a mastermind and I did stupid stuff, but there was still this ability that I felt I needed to be smart about it. And I knew I needed to still study because that was my luxury. I could say, hey, I'm wearing uniform, I'm a student. And I took that mindset even up to 21 when I was still doing nonsense, but studying at university.
So you went to, you went to university.
Yeah.
You were still there at the time, there was still drugs going on as well. And you were sort of involved with that. But then what happened?
So uni was my saving grace, if I'm honest, because it took me out of that very intense environment that I was finding myself in from a young child. So moving to Uxbridge for 3 years was definitely the escapism I needed, where I was starting to be exposed to like individuals that they didn't need to be violent. Like when I was, when I was 18, 19, I was already around county lines exploitation. You know, we had been traveling across the country to various different networks, distributing hard drugs. And that was a very much the norm. And then I decided
that was the environment you were in.
That was the environment. That was just a step up. If you've done this from a young age, you progress through the ranks and you just say, now let's take it outside. It's too bait to be doing this in Croydon. We need to get out and make more money elsewhere. I'm older now. I got more excuses to be out. And then uni was just another one. So I was doing that all the way up to 21. And then my life changed on the 4th of December.
So what happened on the 4th of December?
What happened on the 4th of December?
Yeah.
I met my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Okay, so how did that happen?
Yeah, it happened in one evening on one Sunday after the passing of one of my closest friends, Akeem Moore. He was murdered in like literally weeks before my transformation. And I was in a heavy state of depression. Now I know it's depression. While I was smoking weed, locked myself in my flat, wasn't speaking to anyone. And I was just having a lot of dark, negative feelings.
And your best friend had just died.
One of my closest friends, he had been murdered. And obviously, just a few weeks before that, another very close friend had been incarcerated for a firearm. So there was this whole thing around guns, like one's been gone prison for guns, one's just been shot. And it was just this weird, poetic resurgence of trauma that I was just deep in, very more. And it was weird because this is normal. I've lost friends, I've buried friends, but this one felt very close to home. And questions like, what am I actually doing was coming to mind, and I was unpacking that and just feeling lost because I didn't have no passion in the things that I was so desperate to achieve: money, accolades, respect. I was making music, I had pop notoriety, and all of that just felt like the chasing of the wind. And I found myself on that Sunday, after being pulled into a church service by one of my friends that saw what I was going through,
So
asking
what,
me
they
to
just
just
knocked on your door, or?
literally said, I think you need to go to church. Um, and of course, I'm a young person that was grew up in the church, so it's not an insane invitation for me. And I did go, and I fell in love with the nostalgia. That's what I say.
Right.
Like going back to church after all those years as a grown man now, it did something for me. It was therapy. And then I decided to go back. So for 4 weeks, I was going back, which then led up to the 4th of December, where there was a guest preacher at the church, and he just spoke directly to my situation. He used the word nostalgia. He said, you guys that are coming here for nostalgia, you need to have a 100% relationship with God. And then I found myself in having a 10-minute profound conversation with the Lord, where I was asking him questions about how I could have that 100% relationship. And he gave me those answers in that conversation. And I had a very spiritual encounter where I felt the Lord touch my leg, and in the pocket where I felt the vibration was a phone that he was telling me I needed to get rid of. And when I got rid of that phone,
And that was like your county up. Sorry, I don't, but it was like your.
It was a trap phone. It was a lot. Yeah, everything on that phone was for the wrong reasons, and that was a stronghold. So I needed to get rid of that. So when I let go of that phone, everything miraculously became easy for me to let go of. I would say that was my deliverance, not no hands and speaking in tongues. That I just felt and a command come over me that I needed to obey.
Yeah.
And when I did it,
when you obeyed,
when I obeyed, everything, I was free.
Yeah.
And my love, my lust for money, I was free from. And then I saw life differently.
Okay, cool. And then let's come up to, so from that point where you've got your freedom at last,
Yeah.
where's God taken you since then?
Yeah, so I felt like everything needed to change from that moment. I stopped doing music for a few months, and I realized he actually wanted me to do music. I just needed to have my new perspective. I started speaking about my traumas in a way that people could understand, and slowly things, not even slowly, very quickly, to be honest, opportunities were pulling me left, right, and center to speak about some of those things. So I did something with BBC in 2017. After I made a post on social media, they were inviting me to speak on this documentary they were working on, but they wanted someone with lived experience. And I have been very transparent about my journey till then. So obviously they heard about my transition. I wanted to bring me in on that production. So I did that. That went on to win like 3 different awards, big up Rogan Productions. And that led me to get invited to the House of Parliament. So I started to speak on a lot of panels. I was talking about knife crime, trauma. I just became an expert in that field. And then my music naturally started to change. And funny enough, I started to explode in another way that I didn't even think I would after letting go of my music desires. And
so you had to put everything down, and then God gave back.
Literally,
literally,
that's a good way of stating it. And yeah, man, it just feels like yesterday the way, one thing after the other, like one thing, getting invited to Italy to do some writing camp, and then coming back and doing a development thing. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm talking to X amount of organizations and getting signed to management, and then going on tour and winning a MOBO, and, doing it. And then eventually then feeling burdened to do more for Croydon after knowing that this is where my journey really started. And then meeting the likes of you and Pete and everyone that saw something in me, and then inviting me to take on this journey of social impact, which has now led me to be a director at the Croydon's best mentoring organization, Meant4, which is a baton I've been running with. Come on, that's facts. It's facts. It's slated. And after 3 years, I've been able to see over 400 kids radically transformed, impacted, inspired, and even some of them delivered as well. So it's a journey that I'm proud to be a part of, and I'm just running it to this very day.
Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Remember, vulnerability is the bridge to better relationships. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.